It's close because the first week for the other teams was what, 3 games? I don't know.
Yeah. Everybody, this is welcome to the Tiger Mile Report, week 3 or week 4. We're not really entirely sure. And is now past the 10 o'clock hour of the Eastern time zone. Are you in Central Time, Trevor, by the way?
I am.
Okay.
I am. So, yeah, you guys were apologizing for the delay, and I'm just like, I'm an hour behind. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a crazy last few days around here at the Tiger Mile Report. I was syncing up some audio earlier with Hasty because I was trying to get. He had a really good call on the Juancillo Perez inside the park home run, which we'll talk about a little later. And I was getting the video for Wilmer Flores, who pitched today, pitched pretty decently. Jordan Marks is a little different story. We'll talk about him. Talk about Cody Clements, the back and forth movement with Toledo and the Detroit already beginning. But I want to kick things off and talk about, because obviously we're going to be doing a Woodward Tigers podcast around all about Miguel Cabrera. But this is the only opportunity to really talk about the start of Beau Briskey last night, as he started the second game of a doubleheader. And I came away impressed with the fact that he didn't after he allowed that home run. He came back, was composed, and he kind of kept his cool out there. And there's a lot of little things we'll get to. But first things first, how excited were you guys to see Beau Briskey out there yesterday?
I was pumped. I had heard from somebody, and it was definitely me, who said that the Beau Briskey debut was more important than the 3,000th hit. I don't know who said that. It was me, but it's I feel so good for Beau Briskey, right? Like, he came out of nowhere. It seemed like last year really is when he burst onto the scene, and all of a sudden now he made his major league debut, and he did well. I wasn't expecting him to give up 17 runs or anything. It was a lot better than I had anticipated him even doing. I think he looked a lot better out there. So I know we're going to dive into that, but I was so happy to see him out there.
Yeah, I was super excited too, to the point where I ended up writing an article about it, and I said I was up till like in the morning the night before doing research, because it's like right up my alley to look at these random late round draft picks and find out. So I went through all the history of 27th round draft picks and found out what he was the 47th ever to make the majors out of the 27th round. And that doesn't mean a whole lot, because there've been people after the 27th round or whatever, but I was just like, I'm kind of curious about this. And then oddly enough, the 4 of the other people from the 27th round were Tigers, including Joe Mantiply, who just got his first major league save the other day, randomly, and Will Rhymes, everybody's favorite diminutive second baseman, who's now the head of player development for the Dodgers. But yeah, I was super excited about it, and like Trevor said, basically coming from nowhere and having less than 150 innings of experience in the minor league to come up, and I actually, he did almost exactly what I was expecting him to, which was, if you look, we clipped together both of his first 2 starts with Toledo, and this one was almost identical to his first start with the Mud Hens when he gave up 5 runs. He actually pitched better in this game than he did in that game, but it was the same issue. He gave up 2 home runs at bad times, but he doesn't ever stop throwing strikes. And he's his fastball and his changeup both look like plus pitches at times. So yeah, and it was cool. It was very cool to see. And they interviewed his family, and everybody started crying. And I was like, oh, geez. But just wish the Tigers could have scored some runs for him.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first 27th round draft pick to start a game since the great George Capozzello did on May 31st, 1981. So if you're talking about way back in the day, and I thought that was kind of strange, because you talked about the late round, or lack of late round success by the Tigers. And yeah, the final line: 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikes, 3 strikeouts. Hang on, you guys keep going. Yeah.
No, yeah, it was the 2 walks was the only thing about him that was a little bit unorthodox, but you expect that from a guy in the big leagues. I'm sure the adrenaline started wearing off a little bit there in like the 4th or 5th inning, but I think he was struggling in the 4th and then came back out and was like an 8-pitch 5th. Like, yeah, this dude, he's going to help.
Yeah, and and even from AAA to MLB, there's a learning curve there, right? That's walks come in there also, because things that would work in AAA, they don't work against the best hitters in the world. So that's certainly one thing. And you mentioned his fastball and stuff looking good. He has better than plus spin on his fastball. which obviously the Tigers know. If I know it, the Tigers know it. And he's got good IVB on it too. So that fastball does at times, it can play plus when it's used correctly, which is awesome on top of all of his other stuff. I mean, we know he's got a really good changeup. I think it was the breaking stuff that I was worried about playing more than anything. And both of the slider and the curveball both seem to be really good.
Yeah, Raj sent me a message about his spin while the start was going on. I was like, yeah, that's well above average. And then I checked. And last year it would have been, what did we say, about 40th? It was around
40th, yep.
Around like Luke Weaver, I think, spin rate or something like that. But then we checked for this year, and it's limited sample, cold weather. Who knows if the spin rates might go up? I don't know how all that works. Maybe less, fewer months with the sticky stuff this year is probably going to lower the average. But it was like directly above Garrett Cole for like second most in baseball. So, and that's going to help. And yeah, I mean, in the other sort of amazing thing is he's from the 2019 draft. He's just the 9th player from that draft to show up to the bigs. You're talking about like Andrew Vaughn, and then a bunch of dudes who just started this year, and it would have been Riley Green, but sadly his foot. But to be the 802nd player drafted and be the 9th one to reach the majors is just remarkable. And it wasn't like a completely panic emergency move. They felt like he was their best option in the minors. They could have picked 3 other dudes who were on the 40-man, but they thought he was the best one, and they clearly think he's a piece of the future because they already said they're going to give him another start. So
he earned it. He absolutely earned it.
Yeah.
It would almost be upsetting if he didn't get another start.
I'd be super bummed out. Yeah, I think the fact that they brought him up suggests that, like, yeah, we're ready to roll with this guy if we have to. So that's awesome. It's a really good development for the Tigers.
And it gives them the ability to sit on Joey Wentz for a little bit longer and let him keep working out his things in AAA instead of trying to force him up just because he's the closest to on the 40-man.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Trevor, because I thought that Wentz looks a little different than he did in spring training, where everything was he was hitting the low part of the zone. His command was better in spring training, but so far in Toledo, everything's been kind of up. But Hinch talked about that during. Look, I'm gonna geek out here for a moment. I've never been able in the position to ask a manager a question, and I had the opportunity to ask. I asked AJ Hinch, how many pitches do you think he's gonna go tonight? And he answered that question. So then I got a fist pump from Johnny Kane. So it made my weekend. I mean, honestly, like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to it's just a lot has happened in the last couple of days, and a lot of it's hard to process. But I'm not
well earned.
Yeah,
it is well earned. I was the same way a couple years ago when I did that with WJR. I mean, it's an awesome feeling, and you've really earned it, man. Seriously, congratulations.
Thank you. Sure. But it was like I said, it was kind of a. But the reason why I was asking that question is because the starters, until the Tiger starters this week, have done better. I mean, let's be fair here in terms of Skubal came out game 1, did really well. Today pitched a contact. Eduardo Rodriguez overcame a slow start and pitched well, which they needed him to. And then Willie Peralta was 97. But again, different podcasts. We're here to talk about the minors. But I'm overall, I'm really impressed with Briskey, and the Tigers definitely needed that. And he's not. Again, it was something that, and credit to Jacob Bose, who we're all at his start last year, West Michigan, and Chris was taking the stopwatch. I was trying to learn how to do reports. And then seeing Bose do this, just if this is a visual thing on YouTube, just looking down on his radar, then looking up again, then scribbling a bunch of notes, and him and James Chipman were just like, ooh. And in addition to the story about us getting we went to New Holland Brewery in an hour before they closed and said they're not taking anybody for food. Get the hell out of here. So that was part of the Grand Rapids story. Anyway. But let's start in Toledo, and with some of the big names we've had, or some names rather, and I know we've kind of like not joking. We're not making fun of Toledo. It's just there's not a lot going on down there. Let's be honest. But we did see encouraging things this week, and we can talk about some of the bats. And one of the bats I want to talk about is Cody Clements, who's had a pretty decent week.
Yeah, Clements had a very strong week. 10 for 27 with a home run and 4 doubles. And not a ton of strikeouts. He didn't walk at all either, but he's kind of a streaky hitter at times. But yeah, he's one of the few guys down there that we kind of care about who we haven't seen yet. As you were, like Toledo's just kind of the home to the back of the 40-man at this point.
Right.
And But yeah, it's nice to see him perform, and if and when they need an infielder or another outfielder, he should be ready there for him because he's looking decent.
Did you guys know that that's Roger Clemens' son?
Really?
Oh my god! No, he's on a 7-game hit streak now, though.
Yeah.
By the way, I knew they knew that. I just want to make sure people know I'm kidding. Sometimes you don't know, but yeah, he's on a 7-game hit streak now. That's a good thing. I feel like we've been talking about him possibly making the Tigers for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, and I mean he's over 300, so that's saying something. As far as some of the batting averages across in the minor leagues have been off to a slow start, so we did see Garrett Hill do a rehab stint there relatively quick. It wasn't there too long. And the debut of one of these pitchers, again, some of these pitchers that are coming in now, no idea who they are. Derek the Law. I'm just going to call it. It's Derek Law, but I don't know if you guys ever seen Judge Dredd or anything, but I am the Law. And that's, yeah. So,
I wonder if he has long arms.
Pardon me?
I wonder if he has long arms.
He stands at, what is he, 6? I have actually no idea how tall he is, but
it's the long arm.
Starts with 6. If it starts with 6, the arms are probably fairly long.
His nickname, by the way, gentlemen, Law Dog. The Law Dog.
No.
Log Dog, not just I'm sorry, I added the for the effect, but it's Log Dog.
He's Law Dog. That's what I see. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. So
if he likes it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm not going to ask him if he man, I'm not going to ask that question.
The Law Dog. He's Law Dog. He likes it rough.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We always keep an eye on Ryan Kreidler down there. He didn't have a great week. I think he picked up his 3rd home run, but 9 strikeouts. And it's still like the question about his ability to pick up breaking balls is still there. And hopefully he'll heat up as the season goes on. But yeah, with Clemens and to a certain extent Kreidler, I guess, when Baez got hurt, they could have called up Kreidler, but yeah, I don't know if they think he's quite ready for that. Everyday reps at shortstop. And with Clemens, it's like with all the injuries the Tigers have dealt with, they haven't had anybody injured at third base or second base, which is probably where he would fill in. So it's just luck of the draw there.
I mean, with Kreidler not getting the call, if with Baez going out, if you replace him with Kreidler, you're essentially going to get probably more swing and miss, which was everybody's biggest concern with Javi Baez, with the potential for similar-ish power, but realistically less power. I mean, I feel like he needs more time. He needs to see more pitches, whatever the case may be. Maybe we get more reps at shortstop, but I was a fan of the fact that they didn't call Kreidler up at this time. Hopefully soon he's ready, but I didn't think he was for this call.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and same thing. I just don't. There's still the fact he can't put together a consistent week of at-bats and what have you. So I don't know. Like, I'm glad that they're not rushing this because a lot of the fans on Twitter and social media are like, bring him up. He's ready. We don't need to
sign. People are done with Candelario already for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's April.
15 games.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't get it. But
we did see a couple strong outings from Elvin Rodriguez.
Yes, we did. We did see that. We also saw Brady Policelli pitch a game.
To do it all, man.
Yeah,
he's played every position, and I don't know if he's played shortstop. He probably has for a game or two. He's definitely a super utility guy.
Who's also had a really good week down in Toledo is one of the newest pickups from recently. That was Jamie Westbrook, who he's hitting over 500, and of course, since this is just limited 10 at bats, but he also, I want to say, he homered on the 22nd, which was what, was that yesterday? No, that was Friday. It was Friday. Yeah, he hit a home run on Friday, and as far as that goes, in terms of Wentz, that's who I wanted to talk about. Guys, have you seen anything with Wentz that seemed promising or anything?
Same old from my perspective. Stuff looks pretty interesting, but can't stop walking people.
I was just curious because he went 4 innings the other night, 4 innings in his last start, and I guess was it one of I think Trevor or you, Chris, was talking about the increase of velocity again.
Trevor was talking about how his fastball is kind of got crazy characteristics as it was last year, and now the velocity is up this year. I believe that's what Trevor was saying.
Yeah. It certainly he's got. It was a pitch that would play well up in the zone based on the characteristics it had. That piece still potentially coming out on Bless You Boys soon. I probably should remind Brandon about that since I was talking about it coming out soon last week. But yeah, it's got really good characteristics to start. So if he's still 2 to 3 ticks higher, I mean that it helps to just play that much better.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to, in terms of arms and down in Toledo, was I wanted to mention some of the bullpen arms. Somebody, it was the other day, asked me about Nolan Blackwood, because I honestly forgot that he was there, because I'm not trying to be rude. It's just we don't hardly hear about him. I remember at one point, was it Lynn Henning a couple years ago during the 2020 shortened season that Nolan Blackwood was a name to watch for the bullpen? I can't remember who said that, but yeah,
I do recall him getting like a decent amount of run in spring training or whatever summer camp it was.
Toledo can be, you hate to say it, but an abyss for some of these guys who aren't on the 40 man, but are close, especially if they're relievers like that. Because you're watching for certain people once you get to Toledo, because then you have to move around your veterans that are 4A player, quad A players, all that stuff. So I get it. It's not. I don't think it's mean. It happens.
Yeah. Speaking of veteran players, Andrew Chafin did a scoreless inning tonight down in Toledo in his rehab. Shea Spritzbar is the other name. He's breezed through AA and AAA so far. And Nolan Blackwood had this scoreless inning. And you guys mentioned Elvin Rodriguez earlier. I'm just glad they keep him as a starter. They should keep him as a starter, at least in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
yeah, I mean, I think they want to keep him stretched out. I assume at this point for the Tigers, if he were coming up, he'd be like the long relief, like Ronnie Garcia, Drew Hutchison has been. But yeah, so you want him to be going 3, 4, 5 innings as much as possible. And he did. I think he went 3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 4 innings, 5 strikeouts. So that's nice to have a guy. And, he was solid in his major league debut too. It was until the 3rd inning when he got, it was just too much for him to handle. But we should also mention Angel DeJesus made his major league debut. I feel bad that I was all super excited about, Beau Briskey wrote a whole article about it. And then Angel DeJesus with this, amazing story, didn't sign until he was almost 20. Makes the majors and has won, it was a perfect inning, I think, and then got through the 2nd inning without giving up a run. That's a very cool debut story too. But we just, there's only so much you can focus on in one day if you got a 3,000th hit and 27th rounder starting.
Yeah. Plus Tarek Sewell pitched really well.
Yeah. And and Alex Fido is coming up to Toledo, right? I don't know when he's going to start.
Yep. We got that. It was announced in the press box too. The first thing I think I asked, yeah, exactly. Alex Fido to Toledo. That was kind of
like an old grocery store announcement.
Yeah. So, but as far as that goes, but then let's head down to Erie, and there, Chris, I know this is a name that we've talked about, not in a serious tone, but one of the things in terms of a guy who starts for Erie is rather relatively, I guess, a unsung hero. I don't want to say unsung hero, but he's not a guy that we all talk about. And Trevor, I don't know if you've ever talked about him. This would be today's starter, Chance Kirby. But Chance Kirby on the season right now, 13 innings, 14 strikeouts, 5 walks. He's been highly effective. I mean, in these short sprints, today was 4 innings, 3 hits, 7 strikeouts. Just not. I mean, I know again, org fodder, I get it, but I don't know. Like it's just when you see some of these people, because we get questions, and you see this too, Trevor. We get questions about guys like Dane Myers. We had Jeff Seidel of I believe it's the Detroit News or Free Press.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to mislabel. He's from Detroit.
Yeah, he's from one of the Detroit publications, and he asked about Carrie Carpenter. He was a real, and we brought him up last week, and so. But Chance Kirby fits in that category too, where he's a 25th overall pick, and this is in 2018. Not much expected, but it is It is good to have some assurance considering what Erie's has in terms of the rotation. Is not no Bull Briskies. You have Garrett Hill, his start went pretty good, but there's some little things to it. But anyway, but I thought Gage Workman had a decent week.
Workman is kind of like this bizarre all or nothing player right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. So yeah, I think he kind of classic Workman, went 5 for 22 or something like that with a couple doubles and a homer. And whenever he hits a home run, it's just an absolute bomb. He murders the ball. But he also, I want to say, had a dozen strikeouts. It's just, and he seems particularly susceptible to high fastballs and breaking balls below the zone, which is not a couple great holes to have right now. But yeah, but he also he's playing solid defense at shortstop, would probably be a plus defender at third, has speed, has power. Like there's some interesting stuff there. It's just tough to project too much there if he can't make more consistent contact.
Yeah, he struck out 4 times on 2 separate occasions this year. I mean, in one game. I have trouble finding that hit tool to be there enough for it to matter long term, no matter what. His defense is phenomenal. He could play anywhere, probably on the infield, and be a great defender. I think eventually he's a third baseman where he played at Arizona State, but it comes down to that hit tool. Like you said, he's got power, and when he connects, it goes a little bit. So, Workman's interesting. I want him to be good so badly. He's got to just put the bat on the ball a little bit more, I think, and I'll be more into the idea of Gage Workman being, one of the next guys up for the Tigers.
And I think we talked about it the other week. Like it's him going to Double-A is kind of an aggressive assignment. They started him at Low A last year, which felt a little light, but ended up being appropriate. And then he came up to High A and struggled. And then after a month, he really kind of turned it on. But it's always going to be that low contact, high damage to contact ratio with some interesting secondary stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, you just wonder how long he can make that last.
And it's not an impossible profile to make last. I mean, there are players who do it. It's just you have to be very productive when you make contact, or you have to be good defensively. So to make sure you have a spot for when you start to go 0 for 20 with 18 strikeouts, they don't want to take you out of the lineup because you're so good at third base.
Yeah.
The other person that we had off to a slow start in Erie, but it seems like it picked it up this week. He hit safely in every game, but yesterday's game was Eric De La Rosa, who had 3 hits the first game on the 20th, and then picked up a pair of hits today. And so he's raised his batting average from under 200 now to respectable 267. This is something that I was concerned with based off the strikeouts. It kind of looked a little lost the plate, but I don't know, gentlemen. Would you guys see anything in Eric De La Rosa this week that stood out?
He's a really fun player to watch because he just makes things happen. He's so fast and really aggressive. And they gave him 3 days off, or 2 days off after the schedule off day to clear his head because he was off to a really rough start. So it was nice to see him get on base. And I think one of those games where he had multiple hits, it was just like spraying the ball, like little bloops to the right field or right field through the infield. And like I said, yeah, he's going to push the envelope and make good throws. And it's just nice to see a guy like that because he's another guy who's struggled with strikeouts. And if they can put him at the top of the order for them and trust him to get on base and cause trouble, that's going to make the Erie offense a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks so what. I was trying to get a video up, right? So I don't know if that got heard in the background there, so I apologize.
Oh, I know. I didn't hear it.
All right, perfect. I was trying to get a video up of his swing, right? Because one of the main things while I'm trying to get my thoughts together for me was his swing mechanics. I didn't trust them at all for him to be able to consistently hit anything, outside of the high A level that he was last year. And in the singular video I got to watch before I had to start talking just now, it looks like he's gotten a little bit better at it. It was his head, would go up and down as he would load and get ready to swing. And you just can't do anything with your eye level moving that much. So it looks like it's gotten better this year. Again, I just watched one swing really quickly, so I could say that. But I feel like it has gotten a little bit better. And if it has, that's absolutely a good thing. And De La Rosa with his speed moves up in my book, and I honestly don't have him very high until I can confirm that mechanics look better, but he becomes very interesting. You got to love those fast guys, right?
Yeah, and it was that video that you mentioned too, where I like the way you put that visual together of like just when he's looking down at the bat and just kind of like the whack, almost like with the helmet kind of flying off. But you're right. I think you were saying something like, how do you make contact that way at West Michigan last year? But I remember him when we interviewed him. He just talked about he was trying to do too much, and he kind of simplified his approach. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to be maybe a muscle, a guy that would hit with power, but he said he just wanted to do his game. So it's still kind of a process. In terms of taking defensive routes and outfield, I know people have talked about that a little bit, but defensively, I watched as much Erie. I watched a lot of Erie today, and I watched Erie on Thursday. What was it? No, was it Thursday? Yeah, either way, as much as I can. So I always have the multiple. I think from now on, I want to have like the ultimate setup like I had today, just
that's nice.
All the technology around me, and just.
I think Thursday was the day they had a doubleheader, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the game was rained out. Yeah, so we were
Olsen.
Yeah,
Hill and Olsen, that was a day. But yeah, so one more thing on De La Rosa, just for the YouTube people who might be watching this. So I'm going to demonstrate a little. It's called striding down, is what I was talking about. At least that's what I've been told it's called. And what happened is he starts tall, with his hands. And then he loads and he comes down and then back up. It works better if you're not sitting down and holding a bat and getting ready to swing. But that's kind of it, is the eye line will change like that as you go up and down. And I mean, you think about what these guys are throwing. There's no way you're getting the velocity up. You're not going to be able to really see breaking pitches even probably. I mean, it just your eyes have to adjust so much, and you already have so little time to make a decision on if you want to swing that it makes it really tough.
So that's on your timeline on Twitter, right?
It should be in an article it's a visit to the video room on Bless You Boys. I took screenshots of it, goes up and down, and I don't know if I ever tweeted about it or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I would have sworn I saw something on Twitter about it, but I did read that article, so maybe it was there too. I
had messaged you during spring training because I saw the one video.
That's right, yeah.
And I said it looks better, and because I wasn't able to watch, I had to work or something. So I wanted your opinion on what was happening with the bounciness.
Yeah, it didn't really occur to me until. See, okay, we can. I have a swing. I'll pull it up right now. I know we're making a lot of Trevor, but I want people who are watching at YouTube to kind of see what Trevor's talking about, because it was something that, again, we saw a couple times last year where he would kind of swing out of his shoe tops kind of thing. And somehow he always made contact. I liked his eagerness at the plate. And now, okay, great. Now my thing's decided.
He's one of a number of guys in the system, just like Workman and maybe like Park Meadows we'll talk about in a little bit, where there's a lot of really interesting tools there if you can just get the contact down. Because even De La Rosa, he's not a big, powerful guy, and he's not going to hit for a ton of power. But he has surprising raw pop because he's got really quick hands. So, it's probably an emergency outfielder at best, unless he can make a lot more contact. But still interesting. You give those guys chances because of the tools.
Yeah, for sure, and especially if if he's got speed, that helps too. We've seen in the past, more so in the past than lately, but those speed guys always just find a way to into October, right? If the Tigers ever get there. I mean, there's a role for them, even if they are just an emergency outfielder. But again, if De La Rosa fixes a few things that I see in a public eye, and I'm sure many things that are seen behind the scenes, all of a sudden the contact goes up a little bit, and he does have really quick hands. That's kind of how he got away with what he was doing for so long. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, the in-game power, I don't know if it'll ever be more than like a 30. It's probably it's never gonna be over the fence power consistently, at least. It'll be more doubles, triples, gaps, and whatnot. So I'm just reiterating what you said at this point, but I agree with your assessment. I guess this would have been quicker.
Yeah,
I was trying to share screen. For whatever reason, my computer's just get a turd sandwich about it. So
sorry,
we'll be able to show that.
Does something, we'll make a video and send it out.
There we go. It'll be the head bob. We'll call it the head bob video or something like that. You know what?
Oh yeah, have him bobbing his head to beat the beat of something.
Yeah, there you go. I
just want to bring up Dylan Dingler real quick. Just checking in on Dingler. 5 for 20, a home run, 5 strikeouts. Like, that's kind of typical Dingler week now. He's not doing a whole lot on offense these days, and that's fine, I guess. Hopefully he's focusing mostly on his defense because that's what's going to get him to the bigs. But you would like to see a little bit more production because he looked so damn good last year, even for the first couple weeks of Double-A, and then it kind of went off a cliff, and he hasn't seemed to find it since then.
And that goes back to the focus thing I talked about last week. Maybe he's just focusing on defense. They're saying go out. Offense doesn't. I mean, do what you can on offense, but we want you to focus on calling a game. We want you to focus on, this, that. You get your pop time down. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But I think maybe they're sending him defensively focused for now before they bring him back fully offensively. Could be happening.
Well, did Raj freeze? Did everyone freeze but me? No.
I'm still here. I'm good.
Yeah, Raj is frozen on my screen. It's kind of funny. We should touch on the pitching, I think, right? You mentioned Garrett Hill. 5 innings.
Hill and Olsen.
5 innings, 9 strikeouts?
Yeah. They had near 20 strikeouts and back in both games of a doubleheader, which is awesome. I actually ran out of time to watch those games, so I didn't. But I know I love Reese Olsen. And I know that I'm surprised at Garrett Hill still. I know that he was in the AFL. I tried, and I know that he's got some stuff. I feel like his stuff has improved this year. Is the missing factor here between what I'm thinking Garrett Hill is and what he's doing.
The strange thing about Garrett Hill, it reminds me vaguely of Spencer Turnbull. Now, they don't have the same kind of arms, but Spencer Turnbull just kind of never gave up home runs in the minors. And Hill is pretty similar. He just gets a lot of ground balls and doesn't give up a ton of damage when they put the ball in play. And yeah, I actually didn't watch his 10 strikeout start. I watched his first outing of the year, and he's got a really nice changeup too at times where sometimes it even shows like split action on it. It just drops off the table. So that's nice, but he doesn't have. It's somewhat similar to Briskey. He does not have the top end velocity that Briskey does, and I assume the fastball characteristics. So he's got to be a lot more careful with his fastball, and I don't know if he'll play against big leaguers, but I don't know. I compared him to Thad Weber the other day. It was a name that goes back about 15 years to, if any Tigers fans remember him as a guy I didn't think was going to make the majors, and then he ended up having a couple, spending, I think, parts of 3 seasons in the bigs.
Yeah, so his fastball, as of, last year was below average spin. Had a lot of characteristics that maybe it looks like maybe it was a 2-seamer because it's got higher horizontal movement, less so on IVB and plane and whatnot, but it's got below average spin to it. So yeah, he doesn't have the fastball characteristics that Briskey does, but I think that I want to make a marker for the listeners here for when we jump down to high A, because we've talked about the changeup with Beau Briskey. Talked about a changeup with Garrett Hill, and that's going to be important for things that I say later. So just remember that we got a couple guys with good changeups here. And Reese Olsen, who I've watched much more of than I have Hill. It's all command with him, man. His stuff is there. I mean, I have trouble thinking his stuff isn't there for whatever. It's all just command.
Yeah, and that's. It was sort of the book on him coming out when they acquired him in the trade, and what we saw is you wonder if it's going to come because of his sort of unorthodox high effort delivery. He throws a decent amount of strikes, but yeah, it's you don't know if he's going to have that level of command to put everything where he wants it. But yeah, all 4 of his pitches flash above average like fairly frequently. So it's a nice. Like I think I've compared him to Alex Lang before. Like maybe at some point you just throw that guy in the bullpen and let his stuff blow people away.
And that's I think that brings up a point that I think maybe should be touched on a little bit. Command. Hi.
Power
command is more than just not walking guys. And I think sometimes it gets confused with he has a high walk rate, he has poor command, but you have command in the zone too, right? Like you don't want to leave fastballs over the middle or changeups over the middle. Because that'll ding you for command also. I mean, I've put 45 future value command or 40 command on a guy who is not walking a ton, but he just can't not put his pitches in the middle of the zone, right? So there's that other side of command too for Olsen than just keeping walks down or for Flores than just keeping walks down, or for whoever than just not walking a lot of guys.
There is one thing I wanted. I'm sorry, I just jumped in. Like it was literally, I was about to say something, and some accident happened over here by my house. But I guess that's what my wife was saying. But anyway, I watched Garrett Hill start on Saturday, and there's a couple times, it was especially on righties, he had a couple right-handers. He had two right-handers, but it was kind of every time I tried to go inside, it was up and tight, which I respect the fact he did that, but I thought that it was one of the first starts where I saw it kept, anytime he would go bust anybody inside, it was just high and tight. But I thought lefties he handled pretty well. Overall, there's a question about whether Garrett Hill would be an option down the line, and I still think there's a reliever risk to him. I think that he could going 5 innings is great, and that was a start. And hopefully, he can go more. But I don't know how Richmond stands in terms of the standings of offense, if they're good or bad or what have you. But 10 strikeouts that is an eye-opening number. But I don't know. What'd you guys think of Garrett Hill on Saturday?
Yeah, we covered that. And I think one of the things that you might find interesting, you missed. He has.
Sorry.
We talked about his fastball data, right? We talked about how he doesn't. He in a way is kind of like Briskey, right? He doesn't have that insane stuff behind his fastball, which is true. It's fringe average, but below average spin on his fastball, and it's got more two-seam sinkerish characteristics to it than anything else, which is interesting, I thought. But would you say his stuff has ticked up this year from last year?
I'd say so. I think there's definitely, especially I think his location too. I don't know if you guys correct. I thought his off-speed stuff looked sharper this year compared to last year.
Yeah, we were mentioned. I didn't see this start. I need to go back and watch it. But I watched his first start of the year, and his changeup at times looked really impressive. And it feels like the sort of thing that would still work against higher level hitters, but maybe not if they're sitting on it because they're not worried about anything else. I don't know. I mean, he pitched in the AFL. He was in the Fall Stars game, so we got one inning from him there. He looked okay. I don't know. He strikes me as more than an org guy, but probably not much more than like emergency depth. We'll see. I mean, he's 26 already, I think.
I mean,
right?
And I didn't watch the start either. So, boy, are we glad you came back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we talked about Reese Olson a little bit too, but he's tearing up Double-A. I thought he might go to Triple-A to replace Briskey, but that's where they sent Faedo, which that makes sense. And again, that's the sort of thing that kind of tells you how the organization feels about a player.
As far as Faedo goes, you guys think he's going to start, or is he going to come out of the bullpen if the Tigers call him up?
I would like to see him pitch in Toledo before I answer that question.
Same here.
I mean, gun to my head right now, probably bullpen, but I have not moved off of my future middle relief evaluation of Alex Faedo yet. So I kind of want to see what he does coming back from injury. I want to see where his velocity's at more than anything. I know that we got a little bit in Lakeland, but I just want to see how the velocity's holding where it's at, what he's looking like that way before. Because I think that's huge between middle relief or potential starter.
Yeah, I think they're going to continue having him build up his innings in Toledo for a couple outings. I think they'd like to get him to 5 or 6 innings in a outing just in case they need a starter and they want to try him that way. And it's one of those things. He's a former first-round pick. They probably want to give him every chance to fail as a starter before they move him to the bullpen, unless Tigers randomly reel off 15 wins here and look like a real contender and they need another arm in the bullpen. I think he is destined, like Trevor, I say he's destined for middle relief probably down the road. I've always made the Alex Wilson comp. But yeah, I think for their part, because they've had, more invested in him, I think they're going to continue to develop him as a starter for now.
Speaking of starters, we moved down to High A, West Michigan, and there was it's Flores watch now, essentially. And so Wilmer Flores.
Wild.
He's what?
It's wild that it's Flores watch, because let's not forget there's Dylan Smith and there's Ty Madden. Like there's some good arms. Like that's my favorite level of arms for the Tigers farm system right now. And it's Flores watch.
It's funny, is because I crack him up about this. So Chris and I will try to split duties, and today I was kind of off the grid a little bit today. I've decided to. I mean, I worked almost 15, 16 hours yesterday. Some crazy,
super long day yesterday.
Super long day. So I'll get some stuff done around the house, and I get all my station stuff set up. And I text Chris. I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to watch West Michigan and the Tigers game." He's like, "Do the same thing." We didn't mention Erie or Toledo at all. I was just like,
well, it's just part of that was West Michigan was the first game, but I mean, like it is. There are games for the other levels that are fun to watch, but there's must-watch games in West Michigan right now.
Yeah, must see Flores TV. And that was
Luis Castillo TV today.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's give a round of applause for Austin Schultz, who got a hit off of him, and he actually liked the tweet too. He was pretty stoked about it. So
he commented. He's like, gotta love baseball or whatever. Like, it's hilarious because he was a 10th rounder last year, I think.
Yeah,
maybe 9th rounder.
0 for 15 or something like that too, right?
He just hasn't been playing a ton down there, and he started 0 for 13, and it's hard for anybody to hit when they're not playing a ton. So he comes up and smokes a line single right past Luis Castillo's head. It's like, oh, all right, makes sense.
He gets called up to the Tigers.
Yeah.
Immediately after, can you imagine the Tigers watching? All right, you got to hit off Luis Castillo. Welcome to Detroit.
That's what we need. But,
so Flores came in and actually pitched longer. He pitched his longest game so far, 4 innings, 2 hits, one earned run, 6 strikeouts, and a walk. And his walk's already down from last year when down in Lakeland. But your video earlier, Trevor, was pretty funny. But that curveball on the first strike, that was just the ability to freeze. And I thought today, I don't know, just me, but I thought he threw more off speed than just the fastball.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. No, so from him and from Dylan Smith, who I'm sure is another conversation, it looked like we're seeing more changeups from him. It's almost like the first few starts, like, okay, just go fastball, breaking ball. And then today they're like, all right, let's start unleashing some changeups. Let's start getting it going. The changeup is actually what Matthew Nelson hit about 18,000 feet on top of the concession stand in Dayton. But it was a bomb. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from it. Like, it was a bomb, but it was a waist high changeup that was flat. So I mean, that's going to happen. You talked about his curveball in the first. His curveball on his last strikeout, which would have been the last batter he faced, if I'm remembering the game correctly, that was filthy too. That dropped right off of the table. It started, bottom of the zone and nothing the hitter could do. But we're seeing a lot more off speed. And I made a remark earlier, Rogelio, while you were away, about how it's important to remember we were talking about changeups of Beau Briskey and of Garrett Hill and all these guys who have good changeups, because Wilmer Flores is a guy who that changeup, I think, is going to, among a couple other things, going to make or break starter reliever. I think his changeup today flashed like it could be fringe, if not higher, in the future. It was not consistent there. I think mostly it played very badly because of command. But when he got to the bottom of the zone, he threw some good changeups. And I think that if he can develop that, then you have a really fun starter here. And if he can't, well, then there's nothing wrong. It's a high leverage fastball, high octane fastball and hammer curveball guy in a bullpen role. But I think that changeup is huge for me in terms of what he is moving forward.
Yeah, I haven't watched his outing from today yet, but I did notice. I don't think he threw a changeup in his first outing at all, but I think in his last outing he did. It would randomly, at least that was based on, kind of a visual, but mostly the radar gun, and that was also in Dayton, I believe. And the weird thing about that is I feel like he did it back to back against a right-handed hitter, which was like, all right, okay, sure, now's a good time to try, I suppose. But because it'd be like, his slider is, I don't know, low 80s or so, and then the curveball
high 70s, low 80s. Oh,
he throws a slider in the curve.
Got a slider too, yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what the slider, but yeah, there was a pitch in the middle and it didn't break, and I was like, well, that's got to be the changeup, right? It's like 85. So I haven't seen today to see if he's thrown those more, but I thought he threw 2 of them back to back. One looked good, the other one not so good.
Spoiler alert: Matthew Nelson demolishes a baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did see that because Roger's like, "Oh man."
I won't tell you when second hitter he faces. I won't tell you when though.
I actually saw that because we turned it on briefly. I was like, "I'm going to get his first strikeout," but then the stream missed his first pitch, and I'm like,
yeah. The stream down Dayton today was bad. It was scary. It kept cutting out a lot.
Did we miss like a full inning because they were interviewing the pitching coach about Luis Castillo? I'm like,
yeah,
I get that it's Dayton and I get it's Luis Castillo, but Wilmer Flores.
I mean, there are things about the Dayton broadcast that I like a lot. They will show the distance on home runs. They'll show velocity. That's always good. But they also do this strange thing where after every out or play, they just show somebody in the stands. They just do a camera on a fan. And I'm like, I would like to see a replay of what just happened. But then I'm seeing this cute little kid. But
Dayton's one of the better broadcasts, honestly, that I've watched. I was watching Visalia today, and at one point they went to they were showing open face of the batter as the pitch was coming in on 2 strikes, and they cut to the crowd, the shortstop, and then after the swing, they cut to the center field camera, all in the span of like 2 seconds.
You bet just an incredibly frazzled director working by themselves, like camera 6, camera 4.
Maybe he's trying to sort out his lottery numbers while he's like looking down. It's like, wait, 6, 4. But no, it was bad. I mean, the stream was bad today, but you're right. Dayton does a really good job. But I was trying to sync up Dan Hasey's recorded Dan Hasey's radio broadcast. I tried to sync up with the video, and I couldn't do it. I did it for his Perez one the best I could, and I did it for a couple of strikeouts, but never again. I'm never trying that again. That was way too hard.
Okay, just speaking of Wenzel Perez, I can't wait until we're through this crop of guys who were in West Michigan when they were low A, because there are so many guys in my mind who are stagnant because I've just seen them in West Michigan uniforms for 3 years. I'm like, they're not going anywhere, but like kind of they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the exact argument I wanted to make today with Wenzel Perez. And we've mentioned a couple times before that like I can still see kind of a post-hype prospect Harold Castro career for Wenzel Perez. And you look at it, it's not all that different than Parker Meadows. Just to your point, Trevor, like a guy who's been there forever. He's still only 22. He's 22 all year, which is totally normal age for high A. And he's hitting 333 on the year, hit 3 home runs this week. One of them was inside the Parker, but the other 2 were basically left center as a left-handed hitter. He's not a guy with a ton of power, but that's nice to see. He's hitting well. He stole a couple bases. He's walking. I mean, I think there might be something there. I wouldn't describe him as a top 10 prospect in the system, or maybe not even top 20, but maybe he's gaining some of that status back. You don't want to base it too much on a couple weeks of performance, but he had that pedigree at one point.
He had 3 home runs in the last 2 games. That's significant. With a couple doubles, I believe, right?
Yeah, a couple doubles too. And the reason why I kind of give pause is because we talked about this. I believe we talked about this with Hasty before, that he goes through these lulls where it'll look really good for a month and then just go back to this striking out a lot and all that. But maybe if he puts it together this year, it could be the year.
I mean, some of that is just baseball. Like to that point, we were all super excited about Parker Meadows. Had that awesome first week. This week he was right back to his old ways. I want to say he went like
188.
10 strikeouts in 1 walk. Like he just, the hard contact stopped completely. All of a sudden, it's like, oh man. And I want to believe in the guy that we saw, and the noise he was making in camp and the hard contact he was making. So I'd like to believe that maybe he's just having trouble seeing it in Dayton. But we'll see. There's going to be some ups and downs.
There's some Dayton to the mothership. Okay, for anybody out there that got the reference.
We
did see former Tiger Nick Quintana too.
Yes,
Dayton this week, and I heard on the broadcast that he's been one of their most consistent hitters, and I was confused.
Yeah, they were saying in the first game, I think he's batting 8th or 9th or whatever, but they said, he's got the best OPS on the team. It's one of those situations where you hope the best for Nick Quintana, really. I mean, he's got a big leaguer for him.
He hit a home run today, I think, or maybe it was yesterday.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah. You hope. I mean, I know I've been mean, but I hope he does well. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like we're calling them names or anything, but when the OPS thing, I'm like, wait a minute, don't they have their best prospect in their system, De La Cruz?
Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, he had an at bat earlier. I think it was a home run off Marks, where it was like this kind of like belt high or a little bit above high. He just kind of muscled it out a little bit. But he was a fun watch. And Dayton's that's a good team. Monster. They're 11-4.
Monster.
Yeah, but that whole team, I don't know. I also enjoyed what's the guy's name? Serta. I know he's probably not a dude, but
that's one of my. I think I told you his name's Alan Serta, and I can't hear that without thinking I'll insert a, and I keep thinking of like a prostate exam. Alan Serta. That reminds me, there was a dude on Richmond named Frankie Tostada, and I was like, I love that name. That's a mobster from Frankie Tostada. But
yeah, he's from the south side of Italy or something.
Frankie Tostada. He was in the army in Mexico.
Now he's playing in Richmond.
Yeah, but I mean, there were a couple other nice offensive performances down there in Dayton. I don't know if the wind was blowing out. Some guys were putting up some big home run distances. Bryant Packard had a great week, which is nice to see after struggling for the first part of the year. He almost had a cycle in one game.
Yeah.
And then Colt Keith has really started to pick up his offense, which is nice to see. He had a really nice. Who was he going against?
4 for 4.
He had the 4 for 4 night, but he also had a really great hit early in the week where we highlighted it where a pitcher was throwing 96 and like outside, and Keith just went with it and stroked a double, like a line drive double right down the left field line. I was like, well, that's kind of what we want to see from him. He's a guy who's going to hit the ball hard down the lines and the gaps, and then he crushed a homer to center field the other day. I was like, well, all right. So, yeah, still excited about him. He just kind of we were so excited about him last year. He gets a little bit lost in the shuffle this year because of all the cool pitching down there.
Yeah, and Brian Packard had back-to-back multi-hit games. Today he got hit by a pitch, and
he came out, didn't he?
Yeah, he came out. He still picked up a hit, though.
Yeah.
But it's good to see Brian Packard. I know that Trevor and I have been fans of – well, we are fans of Brian Packard, and hopefully he gets on a level where he's hitting more consistently. And, yeah you're right. There's a lot of guys in West Michigan. I think
so. On the Colt Keith thing, real quick before you move on, I just want to say that that's the Lakeland effect, right? We're all excited about him when he's in Lakeland and we can't see him, and then now we're like, all right, we can see him every day. So cool, Colt Keith.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's some of that there for sure.
But he's still good. Like I love Colt Keith. I'm so excited about him.
He wasn't there on Lakeland last year when they went to Bradenton, so we got no footage of him all year until he came to West Michigan at the end of the year, in which he struggled a little bit because it was a big ask for a guy in his first professional season to go to high A. But I mean, we do need to touch on Dylan Smith and Ty Madden.
yes,
Dylan Smith is kind of boringly awesome to me. Like I don't mean that like say bad things about it. He just is so consistent right now, and nobody does anything against him. But it's like, yeah, look at him go.
I was gonna write something about Jimenez from Lakeland. I don't think there's enough there, so I'm switching it up, and I'm doing a full as much as I can fit into normal thoughts about Dylan Smith for Bless You Boys. At least I'm planning to. I haven't started it yet. We'll see when that actually gets started. But I am very, very excited. I am nerding out over what he's doing right now because he's had 3 outings, and he hasn't given the same look twice. He is doing different things each time. Like it was this last outing. I think the different thing was he was up and in with his fastball, any 2-strike count. The last time he was leading with his off-speed stuff. First time it was a normal, like you would think, fastball, breaking ball. And this last time also we got to see some changeups. And he threw one changeup that was absolutely nuts, that dropped off the face of the planet and looked almost like a screwball. And
was that on a lefty, right? Or was that a righty?
I don't remember. It's in the tweets that I have about him. I don't remember what he was doing. Yeah, and then he, like Flores, he threw some changeups, and both of them, if the changeup was belt or up, it was flat, and it was just going to stay there for the hitter to do whatever they wanted to do with it. So still work in progress there. But I love the fact that he's approaching each game differently. And I'm sure that's by design. But the fact that he's executing it, I could not be higher on Dylan Smith right now.
We are definitely seeing, and we talked about this with Flores earlier. You're absolutely right. This is something I'm not used to seeing, which is a game plan. We talked about this last week about individual game plans, but to see it unfold actually like you going, okay, if you watch enough minor league baseball or just baseball in general to see that, okay, they're going to throw their certain amount of curveballs or anything out there. I'm not used to that kind of organization. And in terms of just seeing the progression of what they're going to work on each time. And Smith right now, the best part about him is command, one walk. I'm sorry, control. I mean, either way, the way he's going, hitting the strike zone, 10 innings of work, just one walk.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy I feel comfortable projecting for above average command, if not plus. Like just his smooth delivery, throws a ton of strikes. Like, yeah, I'm definitely excited about his future.
But it is boring to watch, right? Because he's just doing the job, right? That's the thing. Is like I very much am intrigued because I'm watching specifically like what look is he giving us, right? But that's not how people watch baseball. People watch baseball like, oh, he struck somebody out. Oh, ground out to the shortstop. Like it is. He's doing the job, which is awesome, and also kind of boring. But I love it, man. I love it.
And I think with Smith, he gave up a home run on a breaking ball, I believe. Just kind of like whoever Flores was a changeup, you said. And yeah, that's just it's gonna happen when you're working on that sort of stuff, and you end up leaving a pitch over the heart of the plate. These are professional hitters. That's like, they get lucky and hit a ball 400 feet right over the middle. But I did want to touch on Ty Madden because oddly enough, like his numbers aren't as good as Flores or Smith, and it's not quite as electric as Flores has been, or as consistent as Smith is. But I still think I'm most excited about Madden, oddly enough. And it's kind of because the mix of a couple things. He has very, very much has a starter's delivery. Like he doesn't fall off the mound at all. It's consistent. He's in a good field position. It's repeatable. That's the one thing we didn't talk about Flores, I think, is that he's kind of a violent delivery. You can see that from Trevor's tweet today about how his hat pops off because when your head whacks that hard, and that's not necessarily a disqualifying thing if you're throwing quality strikes, and he has so far. So I'm not going to put Flores in the bullpen just yet, but with Madden, it's a starter. And the interesting thing about him is I think he's still trying to rein in his fastball command now that he's changed his mechanics slightly. And you see him missing up a lot. Like he's trying to throw fastballs up in the zone a lot. That's what they want him to do from his new angle. And he just doesn't have the command of that yet. He sprays it left and right a fair amount. He hit a couple guys in his outing. But man, so he's got 2 breaking balls, but I almost want to say he's got 3. So his one curveball is like 70 miles an hour. He barely breaks it out. And it's this kind of like comical thing where you're not expecting it. And it's like, whoop, look at that thing. It's 70 miles an hour. But he's got his slider goes from like 81 to 87. And it seems like he can do that at will. And at like 81 to 83, it's kind of like a hard downer, almost knuckle curve. It's mostly vertical movement. But then from like 85 to 87, it's got this nasty bite to it. And guys just swing and miss. And he seems to have really good control of that. I think, he left a couple over the heart in his first start, but I've been excited about that. And he's another guy who's breaking out the changeup a little bit more. And he threw a couple, I want to say 85, 86, that had really good fade on him. I was like, wow, that he doesn't throw him enough, but I think that thing has got, above average control. And I'm excited about him and to watch his development over the next few starts. I wanted to write a report for him for the Patreon, but I didn't want to do that based on 3 viewings. So we're going to go try to catch his next start either in West Michigan or I think they're in Lansing the following weekend. So we're going to catch one of those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually the Tigers. This is a perfect time for the Tigers to hit the West Coast because, go out west. They start with Minnesota on Tuesday. So a chance to catch up and see Flores, Madden, and Smith. I'm really interested in seeing Madden. I did not get a chance to watch his last start. So I'll have to do some catch up on that, but I don't know. I'm not gonna say embarrassment of riches because is that too much to say right now?
Well, I mean, it's a nice depth of really interesting arms. Like, yeah, they're all. I mean, we're still talking about high A here, so things can go wrong in the next 2 levels, even before they get to the majors. But yes. we're seeing in 3 different starters down there in West Michigan, a lot of things to like about the future for the pitching development.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sorry, but like last year before, I would be excited for 1 game a week, to watch some of these guys in West Michigan or never Lakeland, but Erie, whatever. And now it's like Yeah. Like I want to watch West Michigan every day just to see what's going to happen with some of these guys. So it's certainly it's ticked up. Embarrassment of riches, I think, works perfectly. It's definitely ticked up.
Well,
All right.
I put out the tweet on the minor league Twitter account last week, and I was like, I just wanted to get the temperature of the fan base right now, and I was like, which starter should I put in here? Hill's off to a great start, Briskey, but I'm like, no, those guys are too old, 26 and 24, get out of here. So I just went with Madden, who's 22, Smith, who's 22, Olsen, who's 22, and Flores, who's 21. It's like, yeah, all right, this will work. This is 4 really interesting arms at 22 or younger. So. Yeah,
and
it's a good
one
time.
more thing on Flores. I feel like I've done my duty as a Tigers fan and somebody who writes for a Tigers website and everything because I got Wilmer Flores on Pitching Ninja.
Yeah,
it was my own tweet, but Rob Friedman retweeted it, and I feel good about that. I hope it's appreciated.
And he's on the radar now, I think, and so. I wouldn't be shocked if, I think we put together a couple videos of all his strikeouts in 10, 15 seconds or whatever. We should do another one. But yeah, that's his sort of thing that he does. And it wouldn't shock me if we start seeing Flores on there more often because he does have some pretty nasty stuff.
And it worked. So the video is, he throws a strikeout, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, hat falls off. He catches it on the follow through and then whips his long hair back.
Yeah, it's the surfer hair whip.
Walks off like he rules the world, which I mean a little bit, but let's talk. I felt bad doing that video a little bit because the reason the hat fell off is the same reason that we're saying he has reliever risk, right? He's got head whack, which is whack your head down on the follow through. Your hat falls off, especially if you have a lot of hair. But even if you don't, your hat can fall off and everything. So I'm promoting that he has head whack, but also he looked so cool.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember who was the dude from LSU? Ended up going to the Nats, I think. The pitcher that a lot of people wanted the Tigers to take. Shoot, I'm forgetting his name. But he was a guy who had really interesting stuff, but also had such a bad head whack that his hat would often fall off multiple times in an inning. And
but
so
you know what? It can fix. Chase Petty's is already a lot better. And when the first video that I saw of a high school Chase Petty before the draft, it was bad. His hat fell off every pitch. And it's mostly been, cleaned up from his time with the Twins and now the Reds.
Well, it's good to see that can be easily corrected, and I'm sure the Tigers will address it at some point. They addressed it the way they addressed Madden comes to mind. So,
do you want to know the stupidest way I've heard to correct head whack? I learned this one in high school because there were kids who did it. As you release the pitch, as soon as you throw it, somebody behind the catcher holds up a number, and you have to be able to tell them what the number. Because when you release it, if your head's going down, it's going down. Yeah. So they'll bring it right down right afterward. But you have to be able to tell them the number that they put up to get you used to. Yeah, right. It's so simple.
It's it's like a roadside DUI test.
Well, Lakeland fell back down the earth in terms of no video. We had several requests this week for video, and look. Folks, if we could get, like I said, I would find a way to buy a camera for Lakeland, but it's beyond my control. So
we're gonna have to get a drone, I think.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna be heading down
that'll stop the game. I went to a Peoria game, and there was a 25-minute delay because there was a drone just flying over the field.
Yeah,
they brought all the players in the dugout and everything. This is the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, Sherry, was it Sherry Cousin? Is that her name? Yeah. She's down there taking video, but she's not as prolific as we are, shall we say? But she does get some good video. It's just
real good video.
Yeah, we've got relatives down there, like Carlos Mendoza's cousin from Venezuela is like, hey, what's Carlos Mendoza doing? We're like, sorry, guy, we got nothing. But but they actually had a really good week. They went 5-1, which is good for them. I don't particularly care about their wins down there because I just want to see the good players do well. And it was a mixed bag. Pacheco has really picked it up. He had a kind of a slow start, but he's doing damage just about every game now.
He had 2 errors today.
Well, yeah, I don't expect him.
Shortstop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've in the past I've said, that might be a first baseman actually. I mean, he's a better athlete than you think, but he's so big at such a young age that Jim Thome was a third baseman, remember?
Yeah.
And then he ended up being like a giant.
Torkelson was a third baseman.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, so they can move him over to third and Pacheco to first. But yeah, let's see. I had his numbers. What was his numbers this week? Yeah, 6 for 20, 3 doubles, a homer, 7 walks. Like he's walking a ton, making hard contact. That's all. I mean, that was what he was projected to do, and that's what he's doing. So that's exciting to see.
Here's the one thing about the Tigers' new development system is that I love aggressive assignments, and the Dodgers are not good at aggressive assignments for the most part. So I already want them to be like, all right, Pacheco, high A, we'll see what you can do, which would be like aggressive. I'm already ready for it though, and I doubt that would happen this year. But still,
I think well, I mean, I was worried because he wasn't particularly good in the Gulf Coast League or whatever it was last year, whatever the stupid thing they called it, Florida Complex League. So I was like, this might be a little bit aggressive, but he's handling it well. He's handling it better than Santana has really come back to earth. He's still putting together good plate appearances, but not hitting the ball. You're not finding holes. Campos still doesn't have a home run. I mean, they're all really young guys down there, and you just kind of want them to stay afloat for the most part. Echo's doing more than that, so that's exciting.
Yeah, and in terms of even the way, like Campos had a multi-hit game yesterday, he collected 2 hits. So there's still a little bit of again, I'm not really worried about the power as long as he is able to at least pull together some good at bats. So
he's an enormous kid.
Yeah, and he's only 18. But one thing I did want to say that was encouraging though, he only did strike out 3 times the entire week.
Nice. That's good. I think it was Chris. I think last week, Chris, it was you who mentioned this, and I, let's say, borrowed it for my thoughts from Lakeland piece that I dropped. But it was a really good assessment when I went back and watched. Campos is not hitting the ball softly; he's just hitting line drive down. Like he's not lifting the ball that much. So that if he's still hitting the ball hard at 115 miles an hour in their singles, that'll play eventually. I mean, he's 18. You got time to teach him to lift the ball a little bit more. He's hitting the ball hard. That's a good thing because he's 18 in low A.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing that people work on eventually. You get the base of contact. Every now and then there's the Yandy Diaz's of the world who never learned to lift the ball but still get by because they crush the ball. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to like with those 3 infielder or 3 young guys. Sequeira is still, striking out a lot, and he's probably a guy who's going to head back to the complex league when things open up. But yeah, it's exciting. But again, like you said, Roger, we didn't get the video this week, so it's always a little bit iffy just based on the numbers. We did see our favorite of the pod, Lazaro Benitez, hit another home run, and it was a bomb, like 417, 420 or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's safely in the top like 35 prospects for me for the Tigers right now.
It's exciting. I mean, he got a decent bonus, I think. I don't know how much he got I want to say like $200,000 or something like that, but that's it wasn't like a $15,000 like just here you go. It was they like this kid, and so he's showing some things. That's nice to see.
And I think he's 20. I mean, he's older than some of the guys there, but he's still like that power is awesome and it's real. I had mentioned one of the reasons you can see it's real is shoulder hip separation where the lower half goes a little bit before the top half. Brady House's favorite, if you want a major leaguer, Fernando Tatis does that really well. But
Riley Green.
It's right. Actually, I don't know. I should know. I don't know.
There's a picture of Riley Green where I thought he was an owl. Like he is, like his hips are going forward and his face is like backwards. It's like, all right, this is okay.
I focus more on his hands because those are special. But so absolutely. So that like it's real. It's always great. It helps you turn on inside pitches really well. But I'm a fan, man. I know he's a little bit older than some of the guys there, but I think he's awesome.
One of the games that happened this week that was so some people might have seen a box score and say, "Oh, what happened here?" with the Lakeland staff because shutouts by the pitching staff is rare down there recently, and it's not because I'm trying to be negative. It's just they haven't had. It's not like West Michigan at this point, but they won 3-0 on Thursday, and it was Andrew Chafin pitched, of course, part of his rehab, and this was Fado's last start: 4 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. But Carlos Pena, the lefty, in relief. What a 4 innings, nothing. Perfect 4 innings, 7 strikeouts, and he bounced back after a couple of rough appearances. But that's if there's one name I'm looking forward to seeing when I go down to Lakeland, it's him. Only because there's not a lot of lefties in the system at all, and especially on in terms of the international side. So I'm really intrigued to see what he's all about because I haven't seen any video. I think they're sort of like a highlight package or anything, but I'm looking forward to seeing him and Chris Myers, who is still raking it down there.
Did you say Carlos Pena is his name?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking
lefty.
I can only, whenever I hear that name, I can only ever think of Moneyball now because the guy does the pukey voice. One of the times when he says it, he goes, Carlos Pena.
Carlos Pena here at the plates.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't think of anything but Moneyball, but that's cool. Lefties are fun. If they need more lefties, I top out at approximately 72 in my playing days. That looks like more like 55 now, so that'll be fun if they want to go that route.
Yeah, and I think we should probably finish up with Jackson Job's second professional outing, which we didn't get to see, so it wasn't nearly as fun, but the results were a lot more, I think, along the lines of what people were hoping for in his first outing. Two innings, I think 1 hit, 4 strikeouts.
A hit? Caught him.
Yeah. And somebody asked, I put out the Statcast data because we had it, and someone was like, yeah, put that in context. Trevor might be able to do that better than me. I don't know if you saw I got the link to it. I don't know if we can see it in here. Put it in the private chat. The tweet I put out with his spin rates. I don't know if you can see that, Trevor. If Raj could pull it up, or maybe I can pull it up.
You just go to the private chat because right now, for whatever reason, I can't pull up anything. But when Trevor's talking about his playing days, I just had this going in my head.
Glory days. Yeah. Well.
All right, go ahead.
In any event, Job's fastball was averaging 96, spin rate 25. I think it's basically identical to Michael Kopech's fastball, at least in terms of spin and velocity. But you'd know better about the vertical and horizontal break than there. I think you said before he doesn't have ideal kind of IVB.
Yeah, so the fastball spin is really good. The IVB's 15 inches is not. You get to the above average territory at about 17, and then 20 is like 20 elite, 20 is plus. Yeah, 20 is like crazy. Elite, so yeah, he doesn't. But that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Some of that can be worked on. I think there's a lot they want to do with him. The slider, obviously, the RPMs are fantastic, and the break numbers are amazing, and there's nothing else to say about that. And for the changeup, I honestly, numbers don't matter. The data doesn't matter as much for changeups. You want to kill lift is what you want the data to show, but for the most part, that's an eye test thing for me, at least, because I also am not the best at this. But I can tell you the fastball is really good spin. It might even be a plus territory, but it doesn't have the best IVB on it. In fact, it is plus territory. It's in between plus and double plus. So 65 isn't a great, but it's 65.
And that's a new one. Some of these new categories are something I have to dig in further about. Or is it obviously it's important for any evaluation.
Yeah, and there's one interesting
to
thing.
know the.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I was saying to know the data behind it all.
Yeah, behind the lift, like
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and when I do reports for Prospects Live and I look at this data, like for me, I'm watching first and then letting the data tell me the rest. And it can tell you sometimes how things are going to play. Obviously, if you have insane spin on your breaking stuff, it should play well, with the exception of let's say Kiter Montero, who it's just so inconsistent, but he does have that really high spin on his breaking ball. With the fastball, when you get there's three. When I do this based on what I have, there's three things that I really look at. That's the spin, the IVB, and then the VAA. Especially if you're talking about a four seam, I don't care as much about horizontal break.
The VAA is vertical approach angle,
yes.
right?
All right, vertical approach angle. Yeah, so that'll tell you if it's steep like Joey Wentz or if it's flat like, I'm sorry, it's a non-Tiger, but Jack Leiter. He's just the go-to that I have for that in my head. And
Freddie Peralta.
And the IVB. The IVB it will tell you how it can ride through the top of the zone, right? So if you have 20 IVB and you're coming at a flat approach angle, that should be nearly impossible to hit for hitter. For them to even see it or be able to judge it, especially if you're coming in at 95 plus, right? So, that's a huge thing. If you're coming in steep, like again, Joey Wentz is really steep. but he has good IVB. That also plays to the top of the zone because that can. It's a whole thing, and I'm still learning it myself. Release height's another thing I wish I had, because the lower release height, the better it plays up in the zone too. But pretty much what you can do is you can tell where the stuff plays. And right now with Jackson Job's fastball, I'm not comfortable telling you that it's going to play to the top of the zone for whiffs. Now it could with sequencing and all that stuff. That's where the data is very limited. But right now he's just got a nice velocity fastball that he could probably use lower in the zone. It had, I think it was 10 inches of horizontal break, which it's average, so it can play probably lower in the zone, get ground balls that way. So there's a lot to it, but and just one other thing to throw out there: if it's classifying it as a 4-seam, but he's using it more as a 2-seam sinker, it's going to have lower IVB because that's the nature of the pitch.
Yeah, and we're relying
a little
on
lesson there from somebody who barely knows what he's talking about.
Well, one of the things, and I had to parse that data just a little bit because there were 2 readings that came in with spin in the triple digits, like 125. I'm like, well, that's a misread, so we're just going to throw that one out. And I think it categorized one of his changeups as a slider, which kind of threw things off. But whatever. He's out there. He's throwing strikes for the most part. He's healthy. That's good to see. I will say that ever since I first saw him visually, his delivery kind of reminded me of Yu Darvish a little bit. It's like this kind of drop and drive leg kick thing going on. And I don't know. The spin and velocity are similar to Yu Darvish now, actually, but I don't know. I don't know about Darvish's other pitch characteristics.
And keep in mind that when you're pulling data from those Florida State League games, it's helpful. It's a nice tool, but they usually recalibrate that at spring training, and then they don't. So the farther you get away from spring training, the less reliable the data becomes.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Yeah, so I'm not questioning. I mean, I think the spin rates are where they've always been. But things like IVB, I know that it had another Lakeland pitcher last week at the 18 to 20 range, and that wasn't quite it. So some of that stuff's a little bit off. That could mean Jobs is a little lower too, for what it's worth. But yeah, so the stuff can get a little off, and it's more off the farther away you get from spring training.
Yeah. So
I like the way they explained that too. They answered when that gentleman answered on Twitter how you explained how that all worked, because sometimes when you look at it, it is like, okay, English. What? How does that all translate? It is a lot to process.
And there's a way to fall in love with that sort of stuff without, or like Trevor was saying, there's a lot more to it, depending on where the pitches, your release height, where the pitches are coming from, the angle and stuff like that. There's more to it than just raw spin and velocity. We've learned that over the last few years. We just we like big numbers, right? Everybody likes a triple-digit fastball with exit velocity, like 120 mile an hour exit velocity. Somebody will be like, well, cool, he was right into the ground. So there's more to
it. There's a reason. So the example I'm going to give here, for what you're saying, Chris. Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off. Is Hunter Green with the Reds? If you guys watch him at any point, I know this is a Tiger thing, but if anybody's watched him at any point, when his fastball is low in the zone and he tries to live low in the zone with his fastball, it does not work at 102 miles an hour. He's throwing 102, and hitters can get a barrel on it because it has the same kind of, I believe it's IVB. I can't remember the approach angle top of my head, but it's got that characteristic to play at the top of the zone at 102 miles an hour. That should be really hard to hit. But when he does it low, the ball stays flat where the hitter can just, I mean, it's insane. Now, a lot of times the contact isn't great because he throws 102, but that still should be very hard to get a bat on, and it happens more than you think. So that's kind of just an example of the visual side of data, because I'm watching him going, why is 102 getting hit? Yeah. When he's using it low in the zone like a sinker. Well, it's because he should work top down with it. So it plays into strategy. You don't obviously have to only throw fastballs up. That would be ridiculous. But, it plays into strategy and how you approach things.
Yeah, I remember going back 3-4 years ago now in the futures game. Hunter Green was throwing triple digits, 102, 103 even, and gave up a home run to one of the Basabe brothers, who was like, hey, this guy's a prospect. And it was like, no, these balls are juiced. And also, his fastball isn't great down. But, there's a lot more to it. And when you've got some of that raw ability and stuff, you got a lot more room for error, like wiggle room to fix things and figure things out. And I think Jackson Job's going to he'll figure things out, I think, eventually.
Yeah, and I was just glad that they brought him along, and if they have to bring him along so that they can, that's fine. You guys mentioned this last week, and there was some good feedback about it where you don't realize how young he is and how much inexperience he does have currently. So at this rate, anytime we hopefully get some video when we're down there and period, just to get into video. I don't care where it's from, but at any rate, folks, I think we are out of time. Thank you so much for listening to the week 3 recap. As next week, I'm not really sure what's going on yet because we haven't really looked at the week ahead, but there will certainly be more. I'm predicting, again, a stupid prediction that we'll see maybe 1 or 2 decent sized moves in terms of roster back and forth that do not involve the Tigers and maybe just involve between West Michigan and Erie. Just a prediction. I could be wrong. Who knows? But Trevor, thank you so much for joining us again. Really appreciate it and carrying the bulk of the show. It's always fun to have you on. And again, thank you for having it on for Field of Stream. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys coming on. Of course, appreciate you having me as well. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys want to be back. I didn't mess up too bad last week.
No, man, no. You really, like I said, some of the feedback we got was really good. So, anyway, everybody, we'll see you next week. Be my Dick Clark wave.